Welcome to the Horror Story channel, where nightmares come to life. Join us for spine-chilling stories of terror, creepy urban legends, and haunted places. If you're brave enough to face your deepest fears, hit the subscribe button for our latest horror stories. Without any delay, let's jump right into the story. The Scream in the Forest. Isabella stood at the edge of the forest, her camera slung around her neck, and her backpack filled with provisions for the day. She had always been drawn to the untamed beauty of nature, and this remote, dense forest in the Pacific Northwest was no exception. As a photographer, she constantly sought the hidden gems that lay undiscovered, capturing their essence through her lens. The forest loomed before her, a cathedral of towering evergreens and ancient oaks, their branches reaching out like bony fingers to touch the sky. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay, a testament to the perpetual cycle of life and death that unfolded within. As Isabella stepped into the forest, the canopy overhead filtered the sunlight into dappled patterns on the ground, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. She had heard whispers of the legends that surrounded this place, tales of strange occurrences, unsolved mysteries, and eerie encounters. Some said the forest was cursed, while others believed it was home to supernatural entities. Isabella didn't put much stock in these stories, but as she ventured deeper into the woods, she found herself drawn into the silence that seemed to blanket the area. It was as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something to break the spell. The further she walked, the more the forest seemed to close in around her, its beauty juxtaposed with an unnerving sense of isolation. She paused occasionally to photograph the play of light and shadow or the intricacies of an old tree root, but her thoughts kept returning to the legends she had heard. What if there's some truth to them? She mused silently, brushing off the idea with a shake of her head. I'm here to uncover the forest's secrets, not get caught up in old wives' tales. As the day wore on, Isabella found herself treading an increasingly overgrown path. The underbrush grew thicker, and the sense of foreboding seemed to intensify. I must be close to something hidden, she thought, her curiosity piqued. No one has been this way for a long time. She pressed forward, her camera at the ready, determined to unveil the mysteries that the forest concealed. Just as she was about to lose hope of finding anything of interest, Isabella stumbled upon an unmarked trail, barely discernible through the dense foliage. It was as if the forest itself was presenting her with an invitation, daring her to follow the path less traveled. She hesitated, glancing back at the familiar route she had been following. Then, with a resolute sigh, she stepped onto the unmarked trail and allowed it to lead her further into the whispering woods, unaware of the chilling adventure that lay ahead. The sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting a kaleidoscope of dappled shadows on the forest floor. Isabella marveled at the towering trees, their moss-covered trunks a testament to the passage of time. She took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and lush vegetation filling her senses. The silence enveloped her, interrupted only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. It was as if the forest held its breath, waiting for her to uncover its secrets. As she ventured further, Isabella came across a narrow, unmarked path. It veered away from the main trail, disappearing into the undergrowth. Intrigued, she hesitated for a moment, then made her decision. This must be one of those hidden gems, she whispered to herself, her voice barely disturbing the stillness of the air. Let's see where it leads. The path meandered through a tangle of ferns and fallen logs, the vibrant greens and earthy browns forming a tapestry of nature's artistry. Isabella stopped often, her camera clicking as she captured the ethereal beauty surrounding her. Yet, as she delved deeper into the forest, she became aware of the subtle shift in its atmosphere. It was in the way the shadows seemed to cling to the trees, their gnarled roots reaching out like twisted fingers. It was in the way the silence deepened, an almost oppressive weight that pressed down on her chest. And it was in the way the air grew colder, the chill seeping into her bones despite the warmth of her jacket. What is it about this place? Isabella murmured, her brow furrowed in confusion. She shook her head, attempting to dismiss her growing unease. It's just a forest, like any other. There's nothing to be afraid of. She continued on, her footsteps echoing softly on the damp ground. Her camera hung by her side, momentarily forgotten as she focused on the path before her. And as she walked, she couldn't help but recall the whispered tales of the forest's eerie reputation. Legends of spirits that wandered among the trees, their voices carried on the wind, and stories of travelers who had ventured too deep, never to return. Isabella shook her head again, this time more forcefully. Enough, she admonished herself. This is no place for silly superstitions. She took a deep, steadying breath and resumed her search for untouched beauty, her determination renewed. But as she moved further along the unmarked path, the sense of unease continued to linger, an unspoken warning that she was venturing into the unknown. As Isabella continued to traverse the unmarked path, the sunlight filtering through the dense canopy created a mesmerizing pattern of shadows and light on the forest floor. The profound silence was punctuated only by the crunching of leaves beneath her feet, and she marveled at the ethereal beauty that surrounded her. A sudden gust of wind rustled the treetops, and the stillness seemed to ebb away momentarily. In that fleeting instant, Isabella heard a deep, horrifying scream that tore through the forest's tranquility like a knife. The sound of a man's voice, laced with terror and desperation, echoed in the distance. She froze in her tracks, her heart hammering in her chest. What on earth could have caused such a dreadful scream? Isabella thought, her mind racing with possibilities. The sound reverberated in her mind, igniting a flicker of dread deep within her. She considered turning back, but her innate curiosity and empathy urged her forward. Compelled to help the man in distress, Isabella followed the direction from which the scream had emanated, her pace quickening. As she ventured deeper into the woods, the sunlight grew scarce, and the underbrush thickened. The air felt heavy, and an unsettling sensation began to creep over her. Stay focused, Isabella. Someone needs your help, she silently admonished herself, pushing her fears aside. Every now and then, she heard faint echoes of the man's anguished cries, guiding her further off the beaten path. The eerie quietude of the forest grew more oppressive, and her pulse raced in tandem with her hastening footsteps. The towering trees seemed to close in around her, their gnarled branches reaching out like twisted arms in the dim light. This place, it's like a living, breathing entity, she mused, her fascination with the forest momentarily eclipsing her fear. Just as Isabella began to doubt the direction she was headed, another scream pierced the air, the terror in the man's voice palpable. Her heart clenched at the sound, and her resolve hardened. "Whoever you are, I'm coming," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the crunching of leaves. With renewed determination, Isabella pushed through the dense foliage, driven by a need to uncover the source of the screams and to help the tormented soul hidden within the forest depths. Little did she know that her courageous pursuit would lead her to a darkness far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. As Isabella continued her search for the source of the scream, the oppressive silence of the forest only seemed to grow heavier around her. The towering trees appeared to lean in, as though they were privy to some dark secret. With each step, her heart pounded faster in her chest, a mixture of fear and determination propelling her forward. A rustling in the underbrush caught her attention. She spun around, her hand gripping the strap of her camera tightly. A tall man emerged from the shadows, his rough, weathered face softened by a look of concern. "Are you all right, miss?" he asked, his voice gruff yet gentle. "I had that scream too." "Name's Henry." Isabella hesitated, studying his face. "I'm Isabella," she replied cautiously. "Do you know anything about that scream?" Henry shook his head, his eyes narrowing. "No, but I've been living in these woods for years. I know them like the back of my hand. If someone's in trouble, I'll help you find them." As they searched together, Isabella noticed that Henry seemed to lead her on a meandering path, never quite moving in a straight line toward the source of the scream. She furrowed her brow, her thoughts racing. Why would he do that? Is he trying to help, or is he leading me astray? They stumbled upon an old, rusted hunting trap, its menacing jaws half hidden beneath a pile of leaves. Isabella gasped and took a step back, but Henry chuckled, brushing the leaves away with his boot. "Don't worry, it's not set," he said, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling fascination. "I used to hunt a lot. Sometimes, the thrill of the chase is all you need to feel alive." Isabella shuddered, trying to suppress the growing unease that settled in her stomach. "I prefer to find my thrills in the beauty of nature, not in causing harm to others." Henry smirked, a wicked glint in his eyes. To each their own. As the sun began to set, casting eerie shadows across the forest floor, Isabella's instinct screamed at her that something was off. But she couldn't abandon the search for the person who cried out for help. She had to trust Henry, at least for now. As they pressed on, Isabella couldn't help but wonder what secrets the forest was hiding, and what role this mysterious stranger might play in them. Isabella stared at the moss-covered door nestled within the forest floor, her heart pounding in her chest. The scream had led her to this inconspicuous entrance, tucked away so seamlessly that it seemed to be part of the landscape. She swallowed her fear, determined to uncover the truth and help the man whose voice had cried out in such desperation. As she reached for the cold, rusted handle, she couldn't help but think, what if this is a trap? What if I'm walking right into danger? But with a deep breath, she stilled her nerves and pulled the door open, revealing a set of dimly lit stairs that descended into the earth. Isabella hesitated for a moment, then began her descent, each step echoing in the confined space. She could feel the damp, musty air clinging to her skin as she ventured further into the unknown. "I have to find the source of the scream," she thought, trying to push aside her unease. Someone's life could be at stake. The stairs opened into a narrow corridor lit by flickering, wall-mounted lanterns. The air grew colder, and the stench of decay filled her nostrils. Isabella took a cautious step forward, her eyes scanning the walls and the shadows they cast, searching for the source of the man's anguished cry. As she turned a corner, she came across a heavy, locked door. Through the small, barred window, she could see a man bound to a chair, his face bruised and bloodied. His eyes widened in terror as he noticed her, and he began to plead in a hoarse whisper, "Please, help me. He'll be back soon." Isabella's heart ached at the sight of his suffering. "I'll get you out of here," she whispered, her voice filled with determination. She searched the corridor, frantically looking for something to pry the door open. As she rummaged through the shadows, the sound of footsteps echoed behind her. She turned to find Henry standing in the dim light, his eyes cold and unfeeling. Well, he sneered, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "You found my little hideaway." Isabella's blood ran cold as she realized the gravity of her situation. "You monster," she spat, her eyes blazing with anger. "What have you done to him?" Henry chuckled darkly, a gleam of malice in his eyes. "He's simply part of my collection. And now, so are you." He stepped toward her, the menace in his voice causing her to take an involuntary step back. She knew she had to find a way to outsmart him, to save the man and herself from a horrifying fate. As she faced the chilling darkness within the hidden bunker, Isabella's mind raced, searching for a plan that would lead them both to freedom. The air was heavy with tension as Isabella, Henry, and the trapped man faced each other in the dimly lit underground bunker. The horrifying realization of Henry's true nature gnawed at Isabella's mind, filling her with dread. The trapped man's eyes were wide with a mixture of hope and terror, as if he dared not believe that salvation was within reach. "You'll never make it out of here alive," Henry growled, his eyes gleaming with menace. "No one has ever escaped me before." Isabella's heart pounded, but she refused to let fear consume her. "I won't let you hurt anyone else," she replied, her voice steady and defiant. Within her thoughts, she formulated a desperate plan. She needed to outsmart the cunning hunter, using the knowledge she had gained from her years exploring the forest. As Henry lunged towards them, Isabella grabbed the man's hand, and they bolted from the bunker. The forest's eerie darkness enveloped them like a shroud, and the earthy scent of damp soil filled their nostrils. The branches overhead seemed to claw at them, eager to ensnare them in their twisted embrace. Isabella's mind raced as she tried to recall the path they had taken earlier. "Think, Isabella, think," she muttered under her breath. The trapped man followed her lead, his eyes filled with trust and desperation. They could hear Henry crashing through the underbrush, his breaths heavy and labored as he pursued them with relentless determination. As they ran, Isabella spotted a large tree with twisted roots that she had photographed earlier. A glimmer of hope ignited within her. "This way," she shouted, pulling the man in the direction of the tree. She remembered the unstable ground nearby, a treacherous pitfall concealed by fallen leaves. Henry's guttural laughter echoed through the forest, taunting them. "You can't outrun me," he called out, his voice dripping with malice. "I know these woods better than anyone." Isabella and the man reached the edge of the unstable ground, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. She motioned for the man to stay put, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Trust me," she whispered, before sprinting forward, her heart pounding in her chest. Henry, unable to see the danger ahead, charged towards Isabella with blind fury. As his foot struck the unstable ground, he let out a cry of surprise and terror. The earth gave way beneath him, swallowing him whole. His screams were quickly muffled by the suffocating soil. Isabella's knees buckled as relief washed over her. The man, realizing their tormentor had been defeated, rushed to her side. "You did it," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You saved us." As they stumbled out of the forest, battered and exhausted, the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and orange. The beauty of the landscape felt tainted by the darkness they had discovered hidden beneath the forest's serene facade. The secrets that had been concealed for so long could no longer be ignored. Isabella and the man embraced, bound together by the harrowing ordeal they had endured. The forest loomed behind them, its enigmatic and haunting nature a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most beautiful of places. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching my horror story videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment below to let me know what you thought. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Your support helps the channel grow and allows me to keep creating new content. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next video.